So there I was, just going about my life, when one of you lovely people in the comments decided to remind me of something. Or more precisely, answer a question I didn't even know I'd been asking. That question being, I remember liking Detective Pikachu, so how come every time I consider rewatching it I do a mental 180? This guy. The answer is this guy. Spoilers, obviously, but the movie came out in 2019, so if you're watching this, I assume you either don't care or have watched the movie yourself already. And yes, I somehow did manage to erase the entire existence of the main villain of the movie from my mind. But let's pull it back and lay some groundwork first. Pokémon Detective Pikachu is one of the rare video game movies that is actually good. Don't get me wrong, it's cheesy as all hell and has some issues I'll be getting into later, but I did genuinely enjoy it. Mostly for the visuals and Ryan Reynolds voicing Pikachu. The story is, as I said, cheesy as hell. But I'm known to enjoy cheese occasionally, so the story of a young man who recently lost his estranged father, finding his father's partner Pokémon, and the two of them trying to solve the mystery of the father's death and/or disappearance, that frankly sounds exactly like my cup of tea. Tim Goodman, our protagonist, alongside the aforementioned Reynolds-voiced Pikachu, have an entertaining dynamic, and the way the movie brings the Pokémon world to life is really neat. I was initially skeptical about Lucy Stevens, intrepid reporter and low-key love interest, but her initial posturing and her overdramatics really serve to sell her as someone desperate to prove herself in a workplace that does not take her seriously. And she's not relegated to being the swooning sidekick. In fact, Lucy and Tim don't even get together by the end of the movie. The closest we get is confirmation that Tim is attracted to her.
For the record, I have no guilt hitting a beady-eyed version of the woman I'm very attracted to.
Because at the end of the day, Tim's relationship with his father is much more important to the story, and in sidestepping the romantic subplot, the movie has more time to develop it before they give us the revelation that Pikachu has been Tim's dad this whole time. Yes, that sounds weird right now. If you haven't seen the movie, I promise it will make sense. What really sold this movie for me is the visuals, though. The way they brought the Pokémon to life without making them hellish Uncanny Valley monstrosities, with the notable exception of Gengar. What did my boy do to deserve this treatment? I remember the internet being absolutely in love with the Bulbasaurs for a solid month after this movie came out. Rightfully so, those things are so cute it's unreal. But the moment that really stuck with me, probably because I have a thing for absolutely fuck-off massive creatures, so big that life can flourish on their backs, was the Torterra Garden. I actually saw this movie in theaters when it came out, and I remember being absolutely floored by the revelation. I knew to expect bigger Torterras, of course, but I didn't expect entire mountains to get up and move. That was truly magnificent. But, as I said, ever since then, whenever I consider rewatching this movie, there was this nagging feeling of reluctance. The source of which is this guy. Howard Clifford, billionaire philanthropist and founder of Rhyme City. Also the main villain of the story. Even before his villainous machinations were revealed, the vibes are so off. Howard Clifford is introduced as a billionaire who was diagnosed with a degenerative disease and traveled the world hunting for a cure. During these travels, he was inspired by the Pokémon around him, who evolve into the best versions of themselves, and traveled back home to build Rhyme City, a place where Pokémon and humans live side by side.
No battles, no trainers, no Pokeballs. A stronger, more harmonious world.
The reason for the vibes being off at this stage, of course, had less to do with him being disabled, and more to do with the billionaire going on a spiritual journey and marketing himself as some kind of enlightened genius, here to bestow his gift upon the undeserving masses, while still remaining a billionaire. Rhyme City being a city he built, with its main news publication being run by his son, the alarm bells are immediately going off. This reads less like a utopia and more like the perfect breeding ground for corruption. Which I was of course right about, but I'm getting ahead of myself. When we actually meet him for the first time, he tells our hero that the R gas that has been making Pokemon go wild across the city is the work of his son, who is bitter about his father's work taking attention off of him and is trying to tear it down, and we get this line.
Ever since my illness put me in this chair, Roger has taken over more and more of the company. He controls the board, he also controls the police and the politicians, and he owns the press.
If that was the truth, while I still wouldn't trust Howard as far as I could throw him, it could have served as an interesting commentary on how disabled people are demeaned and shoved out of positions they're qualified for. How sometimes families of disabled people will take advantage of them, and the societal expectation that they're weak and incapable of XYZ for any number of reasons. From the mommy bloggers who monetize their children's illnesses for clout and sympathy to the children of disabled parents who make themselves the go-to person for everything regarding their parents' finances, it's a real issue, and this movie could have shed some light on that. But no, actually Howard is the villain here, and Roger's been stuffed in a closet for almost the entire movie. The person we've been watching go after our main characters is a mutated Ditto. Howard is the one who had Mewtwo captured to produce the R gas. Howard is the one who's been doing unethical experiments, and Howard is the one who almost killed Tim's father. Why, you might ask? Because he's disabled, of course. In an effort to find himself a cure, he discovered that Mewtwo has the ability to fuse human beings with Pokemon. See, I told you Tim's dad being Pikachu would make sense eventually. Naturally, Howard sees this as his gateway out of his chair, and has his scientists work tirelessly on a way for Howard to take over Mewtwo directly, so he can spread this to the rest of the world, presumably. The first alarm bell should really ring when he says this.
Since being confined to this chair, I've invested in ways of bringing the world to me.
Now, I'm not saying that a wheelchair user feeling limited by their wheelchair is invalid. It's not. God knows when I first got mine, it took some time getting used to just how inaccessible the world really is. But at the end of the day, a wheelchair is far more freeing than it is confining. And a character like Howard, even if he is still seeking a cure, would probably see that, given he's probably had to use one for a while now. Him using words like confined is actually very telling about how he still views his situation. Also, he's a billionaire, so any complaints he makes about inaccessibility feel incredibly hollow. Sure, yeah, Howard, tell me how you miss exploring the world so you built yourself a holodeck. That's not out of touch at all. Not to mention you're the mind behind Rhyme City, and I don't see a lot of evidence that it is some accessible utopia. So, in short, he's really just doing this for himself. He does not give a single shit about other disabled people, and he's the worst. He's just the worst. And at the end of the day, Howard is stopped, Roger is freed from the closet his father stuffed him in, and leaps directly into damage control for his own reputation.
Good. Right, you're going on camera. I want you giving an in-depth report for CNN Tonight, prime time. And make sure you close with Roger Clifford pledges to undo all the harm his father caused, starting with the Pokemon he experimented on.
Mewtwo unfuses all the Pokemon trainer pairs Howard fused earlier in the climax, and the status quo remains firmly in place. It's always a pity when you like everything about a movie except for one massive detail, because no matter how much I enjoy the visuals, or how happy I am to unabashedly enjoy the cheese, the dark cloud of the disabled villain so obsessed with finding a cure for himself he decides to become a supervillain will always hang over this movie. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, consider liking it and maybe subscribing. I will be back here Thursday after next. Bye!